So the reunion film and soundtrack was released in 2012. You may be thinking, what took them so long? As John Paul Jones said, 5 years in Led Zeppelin time is like 5 minutes. So here's what happened. You may want to make some coffee. There's a lot to cover. As expected, Robert Plant was the first one to be featured in the press with two important headlines. No more Led Zeppelin shows after the reunion gig, and he would go on tour with Alison Krauss in 2008. Talk about not waiting for the O2 Arena frenzy to cool down. Page, Jones and Bonham could only read in disbelief, especially Jimmy, as once again, his former bandmate took distance after revisiting the past.
Feels pretty good up here.
June 7th, 2008. Like a swan song for any future reunion plans, Page and Jones joined the Foo Fighters on stage for two Zeppelin numbers, Rock and Roll and Ramble On, with Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins sharing both drumming and singing duties. Page and Jones look happy. I can't play the video because of its copyright, but please go ahead and revisit the show. It's worth every second. As with all things Zeppelin, this sparked rumors about a reunion. June 2008 was also the month where Miles Kennedy's first session with Page, Jones and Bonham took place. They resumed this months later. Steven Tyler would also join the trio for rehearsals, and a third singer was considered for these sessions in the ways of James Dillon from the YouTube band Virtual Zeppelin. A graphic designer by day, he got the opportunity of a lifetime after someone in the Zeppelin camp reached out to him after watching his videos. A surreal moment for James indeed. They would start working in early 2009 on a Zeppelin tribute band. News reports from August spoke of the instrumental trio working out new songs without Robert Plant. Jason Bonham confirmed several jam sessions took place. It Might Get Loud, an American documentary film, was premiered on September 5th, 2008. The film explored the career and musical styles of The Edge from U2, Jack White, and Jimmy Page, a fascinating look into the minds and creative process of all three guitar wizards. Robert Plant made headlines in September, once again shooting down rumors of Led Zeppelin touring. The press responded by stating Page, Jones and Bonham were trying out singers. This, of course, created some animosity between Plant and them. Robert found this news to be absurd, but wished them well in their future endeavors. Led Zeppelin's reunion promoter Harvey Goldsmith went to the press and confirmed there wouldn't be a reunion tour. He also added that if any project was to happen with Page, Jones and Bonham, plus another singer, it wouldn't be called Led Zeppelin. February 8th, 2009, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss conquered the 51st Grammy Awards. The duo won Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Best Pop Collaboration with Vocals, Best Country Collaboration with Vocals, and Best Contemporary Folk American Album. Plant and Krauss performed two songs at the show.
You've just seen that wonderful footage up there of a very dear friend of mine, Jeff. And you know, Jeff and I, we go back to really early teens, and let me tell you, that was a long while ago. But
the 24th Annual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame introduction ceremony was held in Cleveland. Jimmy Page had the honor of presenting Jeff Beck as inductee, a very special moment for the two friends whose passion for guitars gave them great careers.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big chunk of Led Zeppelin. Right here, Jimmy Page!
This is rhythm guitar player heaven, all right? I don't have to compete with this. I just do this.
June 9th, Jimmy's manager set the record straight, stating there was absolutely no plans for the band to continue. Quote, "Zero. Frankly, I wish everybody would stop talking about it." Film director Dick Carruthers spent 18 months editing Led Zeppelin's performance at the O2 Arena. 16 cameras made this for an editing nightmare job. He met with Page, Plant and Jones for a small preview of the footage. They were impressed by the level of detail and multi-angle shots. The project was greenlighted. Everything was great except one thing. Jimmy Page wasn't happy with the stereo quality audio mix that was patiently worked on by both O2 Arena engineers Vic Mick and Roy Williams. Dave Grohl thought about forming a band with Queens of Stone Age, Josh Homme and John Paul Jones as far as 2005. The trio began recording in Los Angeles since early 2009, with their first show played at the Metro in Chicago on August 9th. Various festival appearances in Europe contributed to building momentum on the new project. The Them Crooked Vulture's 13-song self-titled debut album was released on November 16th, 2009. Reviews were positive, but some called it a second-tier Queens of Stone Age album. I used to appreciate Dave Grohl's work up to The Pretender and the Foo Fighters Wembley gig. After that, I just got tired of seeing him everywhere. Where many people resent Phil Collins doing the same thing in the 80s, Phil was on a different musical level at least, and Genesis was no walk in the park. Dave Grohl just became annoying to me. Many of my friends who were into the Foo Fighters and Queens of Stone Age tried to get me into this album but failed. Their selling points included, of course. But hey JC, it has the guy from Zeppelin in it, man. Give it a chance. Of course I knew better. This wasn't the guy from Zeppelin, it was John Paul Jones. I took offense when they call him the guy from Zeppelin, as if he wasn't famous already. Anyway, while Josh Homme remains a great artist in my book, Dave Grohl's look at me attitude I think hurt the album's objectivity and end result. Overall, a collection of moments with the second half of the record being quite good. I believe John Paul Jones took his best chops to the table, but Josh and Dave left their best songwriting tools for their own bands. The first 6 songs are okay, but they'll get you tired. Too much going on, a bit loud and polished for my taste. Like a Queens of Stone Age and Foo Fighters tribute. It's a shame really. Now the second half is great. With tracks like Bandoliers and Reptiles, this is good songwriting, making the added textures and effects work past the supergroup expectations. Listening to this record leaves you wondering, with a facial expression similar to the album cover. If they just cut this to a 7-song release, it would have been great. Strangely enough, this was released almost at the same time as the Foo Fighters' new Greatest Hits collection. Thank you, Dave Grohl. I guess you couldn't wait, right? Alan Moulder was the recording and mixing engineer for the album. Write down his name. He becomes an important figure in the Led Zeppelin reunion story later on. November 2009, a jamming session between Glenn Hughes and Joe Bonamassa leads them to starting their own band. Producer Kevin Shirley gives them advice on recruiting Jason Bonham and Derek Sherinian to finalize the band's lineup. The name Black Country Communion is derived from the term Black Country, which refers to an area of the West Midlands in England where Hughes and Bonham grew up. The group's sound is reminiscent of popular 70s classic rock. Glenn Hughes was a member of Trapeze, a band John Bonham spoke about in the press in 1970. He also fronted Deep Purple's Mark III and IV lineups. Joe Bonamassa was no stranger to Led Zeppelin material, having played their songs on live shows for years up to that point. July 2010, Robert Plant embarked on a 12-date summer tour in the United States with his newly formed group, the Band of Joy. The name was a throwback to his first band in the 1960s. The band released their self-titled album on September 13th, one of Plant's finest moments ever. My personal favorite track was Silver Rider. That song can be on repeat forever. It never gets old. I should get a copy of this album. July 30th, 2010, Them Crooked Vultures played their final show of the year at the Fuji Rock Festival in Japan after a concert run of 38 dates since February. The trio went on hiatus, with Grohl and Homme resuming work with their own bands. This was the band's last show until 2022 when they reunited for the Taylor Hawkins tribute concerts at Wembley Stadium and the LA Forum. September 2010, Jimmy Page by Jimmy Page was published. The visual autobiography was limited to 2,500 copies on its first run. The book was re-released in 2014. It wasn't remastered nor remixed, although some extra images were added.
I'm really happy to have him here tonight. It's a brilliant thing for us all to have. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Page.
A year ago, around the time of the film being released, it might get loud.
Yeah.
And you said to me you were getting the itch to perform again, to get out on the road. You said it'll happen soon. Where are you with that?
Oh, well, at the moment I'm constructing a website because I've had the domain name jimmypage.com, but I've not had a website as such. So I'm constructing that. I think that'll bring a few surprises to how things normally are. And once that's done, then I'm going to start working on the new music. It's a whole sort of knock-on effect.
So we'll see you playing soon.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, that's the idea.
In December of 1965, there was a young guitar player in the session of this song, and I'm so pleased that he can be part of this night. Please welcome Jimmy Page. So here we're going to begin my album, Sunshine Superman.
Special friend on stage with him, the legend that is John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. I was so excited when I found out about this. So let's have a look at the performance from earlier. This is C16.
It was one of the most surreal days of my life. It was, I was doing Foals with Flood. We were recording Total Life Forever. Zeppelin, they had different managers. And at that time, Peter Mensch, who managed Foals, was managing Jimmy Page. Peter Mensch said, oh, they've got this live concert, which had been 7 years before or something. And he said, we can't get it mixed because it's been mixed and Jimmy's not happy. It had been mixed by somebody else. He wasn't happy about something. And I don't know if he thought it was a mix or it wasn't, but I think obviously the guitars weren't loud enough. Peter Mensch said, would you be up for it? And I said, you fucking reason I'm in this job. And as a teenager, I had a poster of Jimmy Page with his 12 neck, twin neck that I used to worship. So he was a god to me. So one day, and it was, hello, Alan, Jimmy Page here. He liked me apparently because he'd never heard of me. So he thought that I obviously didn't blow my own trumpet too much. So I got in because he hadn't heard of me. And I knew Robert, I'd met Robert because my wife actually sang backing vocals on one of his solo albums. And of course I knew John from Cookie Vultures. I got asked to do this, and the multi-tracks came in, and the two guys, they'd done all the hard work. They'd notched all the frequencies, feedback frequencies out of the crowd, like automated it all. They'd done loads of great work on it. They'd done all the vocal processing effects that I got heard. Robert likes the vocal effects. First track was started at the beginning. First track was Good Times, Bad Times, and Jimmy said, I got a phone call from Jimmy, I'll come down about 4 o'clock. I probably won't be that far on. Okay, I'll come down anyway. So he came down and he listened to where I was at. And as I was going out, I was thinking, and he sat there, I could tell he was like, I said, well, I'm not really that far into it, Jimmy, you know, maybe you should come back tomorrow. I got him to come back the next day, and I worked really late on it. Got it. He listened to that and go, well, that's different, that's more like it. And we went from there. It's amazing. I got to spend that summer hanging out with Jimmy Page in the studio every day. For a Zepp fan, it was incredible. Every time he left, I used to have at least half an hour where all I could do was drink tea and recover, because his presence is so immense. I did think while I was mixing it, Jason needs to sound as good as he can. So I spent a lot of time trying, not that the sounds weren't there, they were there and the drumming was there, but big boots to fill. So I took that responsibility. He wasn't there, so I took the responsibility of filling that role as much as I could to do that. And then
Okay, so how did we get a new audio mix for the show? So Alan Moulder decided to run the whole concert in one huge Pro Tools session, rather than cutting things into individual songs. Both Big Mick and Roy Williams recorded a lot of tracks at the O2 Arena in London. We have 36 tracks for the drums, including effects and all, 21 tracks for the bass, 21 tracks for the guitars, 16 tracks for keyboards, 2 tracks for Jimmy's theremin, 5 tracks for Robert's vocals, 1 track for Jason's vocals, and 31 tracks capturing the audience. That's 133 tracks to work with. An absolute nightmare. The tracks that Alan Moulder got had a lot of previous work to them, like dipping out all the feedback from the mix and trimming elements here and there. The fixes were done before the session reached Moulder, and other than him adding drum samples and reamping the bass pedals and keyboards, no new elements were recorded into the session while he worked on it. Without a specific guide or instructions on how to mix the project, Alan Moulder had to use his Led Zeppelin fan knowledge plus his modern day approach techniques to come up with a product that retained the essence of the band with an up-to-date sound. Here comes Dan Crook Vulture's album Handy, which gave Moulder a cue or hint to the kind of mix John Paul Jones was happy with. Because they mixed the audio project for Celebration Day with the visual reference of the movie, some tracks and parts were highlighted according to what they saw on the screen. For the drums, he had to manually use volume automation to pull out specific hits and parts. Samples were added to beef up the kick drum and snare. Bass plugins were also used to add low harmonics and make the frequencies more robust. Reverb plugins gave the drums more room for a bigger impact. Some of the direct input bass and keyboard tracks require additional reamping techniques. Additional plugins were added to help the bottom end come back to life in certain places. Guitars were cleaned up a bit with added plugins and EQ to remove some of the muddiness from the downtuned strings. All of Robert's vocal tracks have been improved by Plant himself and required minimal effects to them. Jason's vocals, on the other hand, were tricky because of the bleed noise from the drums. A lot of automated EQ went into getting the proper sound. Last, audience microphones provided an extra layer of ambience that gave the concert its final ingredient. Against all odds, Alan Moulder managed to have everything ready and delivered this on time.
When it's finished, the three of them came down. Again, it was a Friday, and they all sat here watching it and listening to it while I sat at the back. It was about the most stressful day of my life, I think it was.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Nice to see you all again. And I think
lasting memory, getting through it all. Yeah, it was pretty good. I think it worked out really well, but it was a relief come the end of it, I have to say.
I think relief is it's a terrible thing to say because I do like relief. You can never condemn it, but in truth, the idea of actually being where I am now, my lifetime, to get back in the middle of that music was a spectacular experience, and I was approaching it from a different angle, so to get through it and come out the other side was something kind of not much short of miraculous, I think, but great fun.
Jimmy?
Yeah,
The lasting memory of it is the fact that I remember walking up at the steps onto the stage, and then the moment right at the very end of it, and the rest of it had passed, very, very quickly actually. And but I knew, the lasting memory of it was that I knew that what we intended to do, which was to go out there and stand up and be counted, and that people who maybe didn't know Led Zeppelin but had heard a lot about it, to show why we were what we were. And not only that, we were really, we'd had a really good time that night.
My question, you started this show with good times, bad times.
Although I'd forgotten quite how complicated the first riff was, and later regretted. But I think we did a good job, and it just seemed a good rousing start to the evening.
First of all, I'd like to officially invite you to Ireland, whether it's for a gig or whether it's to stay in my house. I've got a couple of bedrooms, and there's a futon if you need to, or top and tail, whichever, guys. I just want to know, are there any particular memories from your time together in the 70s when you sit down and you have a couple of pints, or a couple of single malts, and there's just one thing that you're all thinking of, and you go, yeah.
I think, the thing is, we don't see each other too often, but we've just spent about an hour or so discussing the stuff to do with Amit's educational stuff and all that. And no sooner we start talking than some little innuendo creeps in, most of which shouldn't, it's just what happens when you spend a lot of time together, and there's some old memory that kind of crops up and you go, oh, that's something to forget, So it's good. There's lots of those things drifting around.
Jason was absolutely monumental in his performance and his playing, from the very first rehearsal right through to the O2.
We played with him before at his wedding. And sadly, he decided to go to bed during the wedding reception. And because I was a kind of friend of the family from the way back, I was the one that had to go up to his room and get him to get out of bed. Do you remember that? Maybe I'm still trying to work out what I was talking about. Every other fucker is.
Maybe you were channeling, Robert.
Channeling is a good one, yeah. Oh, in Glyndŵr is, that's where it came from, yeah.
Jason was great because all the songs we played throughout the Zeppelin years, as the set lists were different, we would end songs in a different way in order to accommodate the next song. And so we'd play something and go, how does this end? And we'd look at Jason go, well, 1971, it ended like this. And in 73, he went into so-and-so. And so he had this encyclopedic knowledge of everything. And it was a real help, wasn't it?
He's got some great bootlegs. It's spectacular, and some great Beatles stuff too. He's a mine of information. I don't know which band he's going to be in next, but there's no concept of thinking about this and looking like a bunch of soccer managers being interviewed at the end of a match. It was more like the people that we met along the way were brigands to some degree.
John, do you want to say anything for that?
Oh, I've forgotten the question.
Hypothetically, had you made some cutscenes like in The Song Remains the Same, what fantasy sequences might have represented you individually in 2012?
We got enough time for that one.
Maybe the whole concert was a fantasy sequence, really.
I think it was. I think going down the river on a boat was already the beginning of it. When we got to the O2 by boat, I saw Arthur, I saw Guinevere, I saw, there was the three princesses.
What was in your tea?
What?
What was in your tea?
Some of it won't go away.
5 years is like 5 minutes in Zeppelin time. I'm surprised we got it out so quickly.
Yeah, I understand the question. Fucking hell. moderately.
Live albums have notoriously been fixed. Whether you've done any fixing to this, would you admit to any fixing of guitar, vocals, or bass or keyboards?
You're not going to tell you that.
Yeah, really.
What a fucking cheek. We're perfect. I think we had to tune the vocal at the end of Kashmir, to be honest, because I'd run out of steam. There's only so many long notes that you can do with great... And it was kind of...
The years may have moved on. The music doesn't seem to have aged at all. Can I ask, what went through your mind when you took to the stage at the O2?
I hope we don't screw it up.
My best memory, what, from this? But during Kashmir, I'd say. I mean, I can't, you know, what have we got, another minute here? I can't go into all of my memories of Led Zeppelin.
They really wanted to do something for Ahmet, and they came together to put on what was a very small concert at the O2.
This is a wonderful moment for me, obviously, but for everybody involved in that show, because as Harvey said, we did it very much on the night, put it in the can, never knowing if it would ever see the light of day, and we make no apologies for how loud it's going to be. So, enjoy.
Robert Plant.
Really enjoy it, guys. You know, take it off.
But we're very proud of it. It sounds great. Looks like we're having a good time. Enjoy it.
Okay, so back to October 17th, 2012. The movie was great. I enjoyed the high-level detail of the visuals. It was a front-row seat like no other, and in many ways, it brought justice to the messy editing and logistics from their 1976 film. I was thrilled to see Page, Plant and Jones show the world they still had it. It didn't seem like 5 years ago, and Jason had the best seat in the venue, fulfilling every Zeppelin tribute band's dream. Okay, so there's an airplane passing by. Give me a sec. This always happens when I'm recording a voiceover. Every possible noise just happens. So because there was no official soundtrack release in sight and my reunion fever was on, I went back to my bootleg copy to revisit the show. By the time November 19th came along with the announcement of a 2-CD Celebration Day album, my expectations were high. Very high, I would say.
Jimmy Page! Great guitar originators of all time, and Led Zeppelin performed, got together in 2007 after everybody sort of kept begging you to get back together, and we've made a DVD of that amazing one-off performance. What was it in 2007 that made you get back together?
Well,
is there likely to be another Led Zeppelin concert?
Well, look, we're almost 5 years after the O2 concert, and it doesn't look very likely, does it?
But you can capture the wonderful
it's
moment
there.
of this.
It's
The
all
moment
there.
is captured in this time. Thank you very much for joining us, Jimmy Page.
Between promotional audio snippets and the physical product played at local music shops, I'll be honest, I was disappointed. I disliked the album for many, many years. Somebody once tried to give me this as a birthday gift and I said, "Stop in the name of sound." Okay, let me explain. First off, we had 9 versions of the same thing, creating confusion among buyers. I wasn't sure which one to get, and I wasn't alone in this. You had the 2 CD, 1 Blu-ray, 1 DVD version, 2 CDs, 2 DVDs, 2 CD plus 1 Blu-ray CD size digipack, 2 CD plus 1 Blu-ray size digipack, the 2 CD plus 1 DVD digipack, a 2 CD plus 1 DVD size digipack, the Blu-ray audio release, the 2 CD only version, and the massive 3 LP vinyl package. So many options, so many prices. It was expensive, and the hype was real. As a Zeppelin collector, I was just like, just grab a copy, go for it. What's wrong, man? It's your favorite band, or is it? I never hesitated like this before. Looking at all the casual fans buying it didn't help. One of the employees at the store even told some customers, yeah, this is the Led Zeppelin reunion. All 4 original members got together for a special show. I looked at him angry as hell and said, no, that is not true. That is John Bonham's son Jason on drums. He's not one of the original members. You should do your homework, buddy. Do you even know when John Bonham passed away? Right, you don't. Customers looked at me like I was crazy, but one of them said, oh, so this is Bonzo's kid playing. Interesting. It does sound a bit different. Let me think about it. And he just left. His reaction hit close to home, deep in the roots of my Zeppelin fandom.
Whose idea was it to do For Your Life? Who said, I really want to do this one if we're doing this one time? Robert?
Funny thing, but I think Presence as a collection of songs, it's been very, I guess, important to all of us, obviously, but we didn't get much of an opportunity. Nobody's Fault But Mine, maybe, and Achilles' Last Stand, we visited quite a lot. But it's just such a great piece of music. And I was talking about it the other day. It has an amazing sort of map as a piece of music, and just like Jason, I was amazed I was there playing with Led Zeppelin, and I was just saying, now where does the vocal come in? And I know I made a couple of errors, just had to shut up instead of doing too much, but I think that was my favorite part of the show, to be honest, because none of us could bring too much back from having ever played it before. It was a great experience, and that is flying by the seat of the pants. These guys did such a great job on that. It was very exciting. Great light show too.
The reference to For Your Life was fair. You know, what Robert said is really fair on it, because it is quite a testy song to do. There's a lot to remember. Not having played it before, it was a very interesting one out of all of them to actually be approaching.
John?
Yeah, nothing new here. For Your Life and Kashmir were definitely, I mean, Kashmir's always good, I get to sit down. But plus I can make a lot of noise, you know, with the keyboards and everything.
Yeah, there are some people in here who are not journalists. There's a masseuse in here who's not a journalist. I think that's ever so exciting.
Can we have a question from a masseuse, please?
I used to be better looking than this. I'm quite concerned about all that stuff, really. It's a bit late now, though. And as the years progressed, Ahmed became quite attached to us. I think he liked the after-show relaxations that we had, and more than perhaps Jerry Wexler did. What do you think, Jim? Yeah. And so Ahmed, he never really lost his energy and his love of music and of the musicians that he'd gotten to know, even if they'd changed labels and gone some other place. Or when he had the accident, everything hung on his, returning back to normal, and it never happened. So in England and also here in New York, everybody wanted to do something to recognize how much we loved the guy. You could have wonderful times with him talking about everything from Coltrane, Modern Jazz Quartet, through to Rat and White Lion. I think we were really propelled by Jason and his enthusiasm and his dark glasses
and all.
Prescription.
Prescription. I don't believe that.
Prescription.
Wait, it's not in your family. I've known your family for 50 years.
They are prescription.
Let's have a look. Oh,
They
shit,
are.
yeah. So, I mean, I mean, he really broke the atmosphere of expectation for us, Chase, because he knows far more about us than we do. You know, he's got all the bootlegs, and he's in touch with the people who make the bootlegs. He's got a very strong interest in the bootlegs.
Well, if I may, for me, when we did the Atlantic 40th, I probably feel I was still in the my era of the world owes me a living stage of my life, and didn't really take anything that seriously. And 19 years later, with the world, I wanted to prove to everyone really that there was a lot of doubters out there, and for me, the whole run-up to the O2 was a huge amount of enjoyment and pressure all at the same time. You know, I started to read the internet, and it weren't that nice comments sometimes that I shouldn't have been doing it. But for me, the way it happened, the way everyone played, not just me. I mean, realistically, I mean, I was playing with these guys. This was my dream, and you were fantastic, every one of you. And it just was a very special night. So I really, really enjoyed it. So for me, it was what it was. Tremendous.
Working together, we were so happy that we were actually getting it right and really enjoying it and taking it beyond what we thought we were about that night. There were moments in it where we just took off and pushed off into some place. The responsibility of doing that 4 nights a week for the rest of the time is a different thing. Because we're pretty good at what we do, but we shouldn't be, the tail should never wag the dog. Really, we should, if we're capable of doing something in our own time, that will be what will happen. So any inane questions from people who are from syndicated outlets, you should just really think about what it takes to answer a question like that in 1 second, you know? We know what we've got. And, you know, Johnny Bennett.
First record for me was...
come on, you never got Johnny Bennett.
Not the rock and roll trio, Dreaming on Liberty, produced by Snuff Garrett with strings, okay? I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be some kind of rockabilly purist, but I do know a lot about it now.
There's a rumor that you might do the Super Bowl.
Who said Americans aren't funny?
Led Zeppelin! Bonzo! Led Zeppelin, the greatest rock and roll band of all time. Better than the Beatles, better than the Stones, even better than Tenacious D. Yeah. And if you don't agree with me, it's because you never did the Zeppelin Marathon. The Zeppathon is when you sit your ass down and listen to all 9 Zepp albums in a row. Yeah, it's the rock and roll Hajj, the thing that every true fan must do at least once in their lifetime. The pilgrimage to heavy metal Mecca. They sang songs about love, about Vikings, about Vikings making love. You know, they say that Led Zeppelin sold their souls to Satan. Come on, guys, you know you did. There's no other way to explain your ungodly talent. We love you. Best band ever.
this, their new CD, DVD entitled Celebration Day. It's in stores now. What are we doing here? Please welcome Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones. Yeah. Thank you very much. What do you think? I mean, to be in London when you guys were kids and all of the music going on and the Rolling Stones and the Kinks and the Beatles and the Who and, I mean, there's never been anything like that, has there?
Were there other bands? I don't remember.
How would I say in a sentence the kind of music that you produced?
All
right. Okay, fair enough.
That bit's wrong.
Oh, that part's wrong.
I tell you what, it's very handy having John Paul Jones nearest to the host.
Not for him.
Yeah,
I've never heard him say so
speak
much
for
in his
yourself.
life.
We'll be right back with Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones. Hey, how old are you guys? Are you just kids there, aren't you?
Some would say what went wrong, you know?
Yeah, 20 million tickets. That's how many. In all fairness, some of those requests were for matinees. But still.
When you say matinee,
Yes.
is it the same kind of meaning that we have for a matinee?
I don't know. What is matinee? Oh, no, I don't think.
So I'll just say it like it is, sharing my first impressions back then. I hated the drum sound on Celebration Day. This wasn't the Jason Bonham sound I liked, the one I enjoyed throughout the years, including his most recent work with Black Country Communion. This wasn't the powerful drumming from the Zeppelin reunion bootleg. This was a strange and polished version of it, a laboratory creation that almost sounded lifeless. The overall modern sound seemed too processed and almost too perfect, a production technique that made its way into a lot of records back then, almost as if musicians let engineers take over, contrary to the 70s, where it was more of a joint venture thing. Okay, so here's an airplane again. It's so annoying to have these when I'm recording voiceovers. It's like they're in sync with my projects. This excessive control over the elements is one of the reasons indie rock and other subgenres of rock and roll have succeeded. Classic rock bands in old age became the sound of machines and plugins, turning everything that's good about rock and roll into a project management showdown. They turned a muscle car into a minivan. For many years, Celebration Day was just a painful reminder of 1980 and the band that no longer was.
I mean, I'm telling you, you're coming along at a very dangerous time for rock and roll. I mean, the war is over. They won.
So what made me change my mind or learn to appreciate this album? Time and perspective. Playing Led Zeppelin's music live on stage helped. Some of my friends got me into performing For Your Life from Presence. That song took me straight back to Celebration Day. But still, every time I came across the album in stores and record fairs, I was like, ugh, this thing again. I resented the fact that so many casual rock fans were saying good things about the record and seemed to overlook the sound. All I could do was think to myself, may I recommend Led Zeppelin March 1973 in Vienna? People seem to forget the band already had 3 previous live releases, and ironically, Celebration Day is the worst selling product in their catalog, after How the West Was Won. One of the other reasons I didn't buy the movie and the soundtrack was the bonus material. A single camera shot of the rehearsal, with no interviews, or a mini documentary on the making of the album, felt like a ripoff. Just having rehearsal footage felt underwhelming. The artwork was everywhere. It was corporate marketing at its finest. I just wished the sound matched the vibrant colors of it. The design was done by the same guy from Mothership, American contemporary artist Shepard Fairey. It was a tough time for a hardcore Zeppelin fan, with people listening to the overly compressed Mothership release and Celebration Day. As I started to grow my collection of In Through the Outdoor copies, my Zeppelin completist fever augmented. It knocked on my door saying, "So you're willing to buy the same record again and again, but you don't give Celebration Day a chance? What's going on, JCM? It features Page, Plant, and Jones. I can understand you didn't buy Them Crooked Vultures, nor Robert Plant's most recent stuff, or Jimmy Page's soundtrack box set. But Celebration has your 3 Zeppelin heroes, plus Jason's magnificent drumming? Come on, man. Don't be so hard on the album when you have other stuff in your library, like Van Halen's A Different Kind of Truth, which can get compressed and polished in terms of sound, and you don't really like all the songs. You know you play She's the Woman over and over, and that's it. Yeah, my inner dialogues can go on for hours, guys." This makes the process of buying a record quite the adventure, to be honest. The last days of 2019 and the 2020 lockdown had me revisiting the album. Slowly but surely I had my favorites. No Quarter, In My Time of Dying, Kashmir, Since I've Been Loving You. Damn, I liked the album, despite the drums. They nailed the performance. Eventually I said, I forgive your drum sound. It wasn't your fault. It was what it was. So in late 2021, I saw that 2 CD soft pack at a used record shop. 9 years after its release, I finally own a copy. Later at home, I realized CD number 2 had a tiny scratch on it, which messed up one of the songs. Weeks later, I got a second used copy of the album, just because. With COVID restrictions cooling off and people allowed to drive past 9 p.m. in my country, I took the album for a test drive at night, and I was impressed by the power of the music. The reunion show was great. As I drove my way through the city listening to Kashmir, I felt lucky to be a musician, a Zeppelin fan. My family was safe from COVID. I still had a job and was working from home. I was not married. I had my freedom, and I was going for a late night snack. I was thankful. It was a good day. It was a celebration day. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Also, if you wish to donate via Patreon or PayPal, you can find the links in the description below. Last but not least, I would like to hear your stories on Celebration Day. I want to know your thoughts and comments on the album. Do you own a copy? What do you like about it? Cheers. Oh yeah, and one last thing I forgot. Stick around for March 2023 as I premiere a new video series on another Led Zeppelin album. Guess which one? Bye bye.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you for coming along. And thank you to everybody who's made this show possible. And to all our friends who came along to play on this show tonight. For the memory of Ahmet Ertegun. In the days when Atlantic Records was the most magnificent record company.